people were talking about how they don't offend people in their work life. Well, you have not come to the right place because I don't know anything about that. I have not stayed in a work environment very long. Every time I was in there, I was like, this sucks. This isn't a camera pointed at me. Fuck this. And then I left. But from my limited experience, I can only imagine what being in a workplace in this PC era is like. I would imagine it sucks. That's just my little 2 cents on the matter. But I would say that the same rules apply as they always have all throughout history, and that is that if you are thinking about you think people do anything people, and other people are sitting there being like, offensive, you know what those are both traits of? Low self-esteem, low value. That's what people do when they don't have value and they're trying to grab someone. They're trying to put someone else down so that they feel a little bit higher than the other person. So they'll sit there and go, that was cringe. Did you know that what you just said is problematic? Like, think about the people that are the most SJW-ish at your work. They're going to be those nervous people, aren't they? They're never going to be people that are kind of like, because again, somebody who is high value and you say something that's un-PC around them, they're just going to be like, and get on with their day. They're not going to go to HR and fucking whine. They're not going to throw a huge tantrum in front of you. They're just going to move on with life. Even if they're mildly offended by it, at the most, they might just kind of roll their eyes like, right? That is the sign of somebody who is high status. They don't feel the need to just, No, that might sound, it's probably not in the position to talk when I've spent a huge career of just cutting other cunts down. And look, you can probably argue that that's low self-esteem behavior, but I would argue that I'm doing it because of theatrical reasons, right? Like I find doing that cathartic. And again, I do have that, what we talked about, like with the 7 deadly sins. Like I do find that my 7th deadly sin is wrath. I do really feel the need to exact revenge. I do feel that. That is a natural instinct of mine. And I do think that actually, now that I am actually, I'm not trying to think of another word, but I can't just say, I'm just going to have to say think again. Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from having a childhood upbringing that was a lot of put downs constantly. So after a while, I think I just like, oh, fix your wagon. You think you're better than me? So probably. But the point is that in a day-to-day interaction with people, I'm really not like that. Can you just trust me on that? I'm a good guy. Don't you believe me? But I think that when I'm talking to somebody and they say something that pisses me off, I don't sit there and like, excuse me? And also in the day-to-day conversation, I'm not thinking, oh my God, it's just going to offend somebody. Maybe I should just rephrase this quickly. And I do have very little tolerance for somebody like that. And I just have this little mental note in my head of like, you're done. That's enough of that. Because again, it is constantly seeking validation. Now, just the fact that you are seeking validation, low status behavior. What have we talked about on this before? That if you are high status, you are giving validation. People that are high status are constantly trying to lift other people up. Now there's all the thing of just like, but that means you're a doormat. Does that mean you're a doormat? No, it doesn't mean you're a doormat. It means that most of the time you are trying to give out good feelings. First off, because it makes you feel better. Second, because it makes the entire group feel better. You're not trying to constantly undercut people. And that is just a thing that is just the modern flavor of doing that, of just accusing everyone of because look at it. Go look at the people that do that. Look at them. They're losers. Every single time. The people that are constantly saying, this is a bad take. You're a racist. You're a sexist. Every time I look at those people, I think, I'm really, really glad that I'm not you. They never ever, have you noticed that? They never exude that kind of winning personality. There's a way of thinking about this. People that are high status, when they're talking to you, you know what they're thinking? They're not thinking, is this person going to be offended by this? They're not constantly trying to, what's the word? Filter themselves. They're not constantly trying to filter themselves. What they're doing is cheering for you. They are. In their mind, they're thinking, let's look for excuses as to why this person's cool and interesting. That's what they're thinking. They're rooting for you. Low status people are always thinking, I'm really feeling sad at the moment. They're not even rooting for themselves. And so usually what happens when that high status person goes there is they kind of just have that little interaction with them and then they think, yeah, okay, that's enough. And then they move on with their day. Because, crack, smoke, chocolate, eat. They've usually got places to go because they're in demand, because they're high status. Again, this phrase, giver of good feelings. You are looking for those people in your life. You're looking for people that aren't going to be needy. Now, this obviously changes from place to place. For instance, as you can see with all of my interviews with high status politicians, I'm always some grubby little worm in front of them being like, do you think that you're proud of your accomplishments? Right? Because I'm giving away my power to those people. But I think that in a lot of places that's just a token of respect, and those people do deserve it because of what they've done. It's kind of a bit, but this is the other thing. This is the other side of the coin that I want to be talking about. Those people that come in and they're just like, I don't give a fuck who I offend. I'm telling it like it is. It is again low status behavior because you are not trying to create a good vibe. Like you are going out of your way to try and make a bad one. So you're still trying to affect the situation, not in a natural way. It's two sides of the same coin kind of stuff. The people that's just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not PC at all. Those people are just the other spectrum. Like really what you were seeing in that massive, never-ending internet thing of like, you really are just seeing two sides of a different coin of people with low self-esteem constantly battling it out. So, in lieu of that, I think that the thing that you should be doing instead is not thinking about whether to offend the person, thinking about how to build them up. And then if you do say something that's offensive and they're just like, oh my God, did you? Usually, this is something that I've noticed a lot with those people. You kind of just, and it's just a natural instinct. Because again, I'm not saying that I'm like the highest self-esteem person on earth, but I am a higher self-esteem than a lot of nuts that I've dealt with in my life. Because if you're in this business, you meet a lot of nuts. Right? And also just in day-to-day life. Like I went to a performing arts school. There was a lot of nuts there. What you notice with those people is just giving them one disapproving look. And I'm not saying that this happens naturally. This is not something that I'm just like, use this tactic against them. But you see this happen with them when they're just like, did you just say that? And then you're just like, yeah. Anyway, how was your day? And you move on. You can see in the back of their mind, they're like, didn't get my validation. And then they start craving validation more. And so they start trying to approve, getting more approval from you. They start, craving that approval. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because you are teaching these fucking psychos how to behave correctly. I honestly think that whole thing, it's just really appealing to people's narcissism in a different way, isn't it? Like things are too PC these days. Yeah, I agree. But, it's not the thing that defines your personality. And it's the same thing with those other people, right? Like, if you are making those things define your personality, what is that a broader understanding of? It is that you are allowing external circumstances to shape how you think. Again, low status thinking. Now you're upset about trying to offend people. This is ebbs and flows of all throughout history. At some points, it was just a lot more relaxed. For whatever reason, it's more tense now. It was a lot more tense around 2000. I really think 2016 was the height of tenseness. That subsided. But the thing is, I think that you always have this. It's just like when somebody is doing that of like, I think lesser of you now because you're a racist. Just remember this in the back of your mind. That person has low self-esteem, right? The people that say, I've lost respect for you. Now, A few years ago, that used to get to me when people would go, just stop pointing and stuff, but it really doesn't anymore. It's more, the reason now, when I'm pissed off at looking at that, it's kind of a thing of like, can you just have some self-reflection at the fact that those aren't your words, and the fact that you are offended isn't even because you're offended, it's because you've kind of just been taught to do that. It's just the fact that you are just going through life in autopilot. I really do think that that is the most dangerous way to exist. If you are allowing society to dictate how you think, pure groupthink. And that little thought, am I offending someone or am I not offending someone? Act of groupthink, because what is actually happening there? How do I fit in with the herd? And if you are trying to fit in with the herd, you're not going to get ahead in life. You never will. If you are following the pack, you will get exactly the same results as the pack. And that's the whole point of it, isn't it? It's kind of just like, if you do this, we'll give you your little survival meal. Don't buy into it. Instead of, how do I not offend people? Or, on the other way of just being like, how do I offend people? You know, either of those things. Because the thing is, look, I say offensive jokes. Yeah, I do. It's for the purpose of humor. I'm not thinking in the back of my mind. I'm not thinking like, this will trigger them. I'm just thinking, that's funny. And then I say it. And there is actually a lot of forgiveness for people like that. People who are truly themselves, the more they are. And I'm not saying that I am all the time. And yes, the more famous you get, the more careful you have to be with your words. But it's not for the same reason. It's not for the same reason of, I don't want to offend people. Because what they'll think of me. It's kind of more like, because before I was just like, fuck you. But now I'm kind of just realizing that, no, now I've kind of got a bigger social function. And dickheads are part of society, aren't they? There's a lot of dickheads. So you just have to temper it a bit. But that really isn't coming from, like, you know, that's kind of just an editing process in terms of jokes. It's not even a thing of, and it's like, I'll still push like a bunch of anti-PC shit. But it's just like some consideration, whereas before I was always just like, yeah, fuck it. And if I was just happy being a YouTuber, that'd be fine. But if you're just trying to get morons to try and agree with each other to be like, yeah, do you like the fact that pesticides are being sprayed on your food? Okay, well then maybe you should do something about it. Like, it's a different thing. Anyway, pointless justification over nothing. Look, when it comes to you, don't be thinking, am I offending this person or not? It's the wrong question to be asking, because it is low status, it's surface level. The question that you should be thinking is, how do I make that person feel good? That's the good thing to do. All right. If you liked this, make sure that you sign up to Jordan Shanks. You will be getting a lot more messages like that. I really do like the messages that I put in this one. I think they're extremely important. And you'll never know what they are, will you? You never will. Unless you sign up to at least the Wayne Dye tier so you get all of the exclusive videos. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do really appreciate it. Toodles.